Welcome to KSAU Master Talk. I am Dr. Nadine Al-Musnid, and it's my pleasure to have Dr. ستوفر, the Director of Therapeutic Discovery at Cleveland Clinic Center. Dr. Shaun, thank you for joining me.
Thanks for having me. It's a pleasure to be here.
So let me start in a simple way. What is all about drug discovery?
Yeah, it's a great question. I mean, I think for all of us everyday citizens looking for understanding what drug discovery is, it's the process by which we find novel medicines that impact our communities and, ultimately allow changes in the direction of health outcomes. And that is, at the highest level, really what it's about is not just products, but actually things that become adopted as routine clinical use that really transcend communities to have safer, safety for their families, better options for their families that affect disease in ways that we can delay them or prevent them from occurring.
Yeah. But a lot of people wondering, why is it too slow? Why does it take too long to have a new med?
Well, so it's really a continuum of a series of steps, upwards of 10 different steps. And why is that, right? So the heart of it is removing the risk. Like anything you're taking exogenously that wasn't obviously already put on this earth, right? The foods that we make and prepare for our families, anything that we take is exogenous. The body is going to find ways to eliminate it, right? And there's potential toxicities. So a big part of that process, and this is why it takes so long, is while you're discovering a new molecule or discovering a new medicine, you're also trying to, in parallel, at the same time, trying to remove risk. It's a game of risk elimination. Yeah.
So you have so many successful stories. What's your formula?
Well, I mean, you're never fully. I mean, let me back and say, like, success is in drug discovery. It's measured based on milestones as you get closer. Obviously, in my world, I've been very fortunate to work with some amazing organizations and great individuals with amazing projects. It can include, proof of principle. Your idea works in a preclinical model, ultimately getting into clinical trials. But I think you have to have an approach where you're committed for the long haul. So drug discovery, as I said, it's just a continuum where you reach these milestones, you take pause, you may have to, attract additional funding to kind of move that project further. But I'd say having the fortitude for the long haul is important. But also, I think the biggest thing in discovery is being open to the unexpected. I've been saying this a few times in meeting with folks. But a lot of times those unexpected results are actually what transcend the project, being prepared to understand what those are, because they could be very meaningful and actually help catapult the project to the next stage.
That's exactly true. Yeah. I know you're working more toward small molecule.
Correct.
Earlier this week, I had lecture with master student. We have a program here for drug discoveries. So those master students, I gave them lecture on PROTAC, which is a small molecular.
Right.
They were very excited. And then one of the students asked me, why is it a big deal?
Right.
So why small molecular is a big deal?
Yeah. So you're referring to PROTAC, which is an acronym for a proteolysis targeted chimera protein. And that's a big mouthful, I know. But what that is it's really a game changer in terms of where we're going with small molecules. And I would say that a PROTAC type compound or molecule is in some ways more of a medium-sized molecule, or it can be a little bit larger. So obviously my group focuses on the small molecule, and including medium molecule PROTACs, biologic-based therapies, not directly happening in my group, but there's other groups in my organization that are very much excited about biologics, antibodies, and so on. But if I come back to the small molecule side, what's really exciting about those molecules and sort of related ideas is that you have this bivalency or multipartite function of a small molecule. It's not the classical pharmacology of what we call lock and key, where the molecule binds to a defined target and inhibits. It actually has some new function. And in this case, you're bringing together two proteins actually and targeting it, as you know, and just share with your students, to go into a specific organelle of the cell, right, and be degraded in this case.
Yeah.
So I mean, just the thought of that, and when I started my career 20 plus years ago, it was not on our radar as an idea of how you would think about drug discovery. So it's really exciting to see. And now there are, for the first time, PROTACs now, some of them are now reaching approval status, like the very first ones, not just in oncology, but in inflammation and other areas. Yeah. So I think there's a lot of ripe opportunity in this space.
I think there's several successful, promising clinical trials.
Correct. Yeah. I'd say the most advanced are some companies I know in the Boston area in the U.S., like where they're using for prostate cancer, actually. So Arvinas, I think, is one of the leading companies, but there are others, Chimera and a few others. Yeah. But I will say one thing about the PROTACs as a small molecule. As I said, they're actually medium size. Yeah. They're usually higher than 700 molecular weight. There's another variation on that called molecular glues, which is also interesting. But the challenge with all of these, when you get somewhat larger molecule, the team has to do a bit more. Again, coming back to de-risking, there's still a fair amount you have to do there to make sure the compound is safe. It doesn't remove that. It doesn't eliminate that.
Yeah, I think this is the main challenge when it comes to new med.
Right, exactly.
The safety for the patient. If we would like to talk more technology, the AI shaking up everything.
Correct.
Is it going to shake up the drug discovery field?
Oh, absolutely. It already is in some ways. I think so. These newer, computational approaches, machine learning, AI, in small molecule space, we're seeing now more applications of that. I'd say it's still starting to reach down to the everyday drug hunter, medicinal chemist, for example. A big challenge, I think, in this space has been the importance of benchmarking the data that you're using to create those algorithms or create those training sets, if you will. So the quality of the data is really important. Currently at the Cleveland Clinic, we're very much focusing on this as the future in healthcare, in both the clinical as also as the drug discovery component. So we currently have a partnership with IBM that's developed around identifying projects where we can use AI, machine learning, but even moving towards quantum computing as the next chapter in sort of down the road where we can take this. But the idea of simulating like small molecules in the context of the protein target is going to allow us to hopefully prioritize more efficiently, like classical computing that we use today. But machine learning will allow us to make faster decisions and accelerate the pace at which we can move these projects faster. Like we were saying at the beginning, right? The timeline is quite long. If we can accelerate that, I think this is where AI and machine learning is going to be very impactful.
As a scientist who works on the bench, how I can trust those data? How I'm going to validate those data?
Yeah, and like I was saying, I think that's been the largest, I think, criticism, I guess you could say, is this, where are we going to reach a steady state where they're practical and sort of, where the data really speaks for itself. A lot of times that's what I tell my students too. Let the data do the talking, right? So when do we trust the data, right? So I think as we start to see some success stories where there's real transparency and highlighting, for example, publishing the methods, right? That's been one of the criticisms in this space, is there a way to provide the algorithm and the methods and the training set that allow the algorithm to arrive at, the evolved predicted model, right? So I think the more we can figure out how to manage that and make it apparent to people trying to get in this space, just how powerful it is, I think you're going to see more adoption for sort of the everyday bench scientists. They'll be able to understand it and realize that there's real impact here to be found. Yep.
Well, in Saudi Arabia, as part of our Vision 2030, we are moving toward digitalization in healthcare and all other area. Yeah. We also aiming to be a biotech leader in regional and global area. Mm-hmm. This will open a lot of collaboration opportunities.
Right.
How do you think, or how do you see these are changing this field of drug discovery field or medicinal chemistry?
Yeah, I mean, I think some of the lessons that I've learned, and again, at a large health campus that has an academic collaborative interface as well. And again, I'm at the main campus in Cleveland, Ohio. Cleveland Clinic has a global footprint. They're also very much interested in expanding impact as well. I think similar model to what you're doing. You have the extended campus here with the university and the research centers and so on. I think, having the opportunity to build a focus group of talented folks that can help catalyze some of the discoveries at the earliest stage from the bench is going to be critical. I think the other thing I've seen in my time visiting it also is the opportunity for clinical trials and actually looking at some known prognostic markers that might be important with patient populations here in Saudi. I think there's a real opportunity there as well. I think those are where I would look for opportunities to start, both from very much the bedside side, but also from the very early bench side.
Variety of genetics. Yeah.
Yep. Exactly.
That would be great. If I would have you pick one of the innovation that you think it will make a huge difference in the coming 5 years in the field of medicinal chemistry.
Well, I think in medicinal chemistry, I think there's a couple things, but I guess if I had to pick the top two, maybe, I think you hit on one, which is obviously the development of sort of bivalent compounds, PROTACs. I think we're just starting to sort of, break the surface on that, understand what the potential is. There's a lot of interest in other therapeutic areas that we haven't gone after there. Getting into the brain, for example, there's a lot of unmet need in the CNS and in neurodegenerative diseases. Some of these approaches, if we can tackle with these new modalities, these sort of larger medium molecules, I think that could be really critical. And as a chemist, obviously being kind of near and dear, I think part of it is at the molecular level, finding more efficient ways. So synthetic chemistry, even though it's obviously an advanced discipline, we're still seeing some incredible innovation in finding new synthetic methods to make pharmacologically relevant compounds, right? So someone asked me in my seminar today, actually, like, how do you construct, what's the right strategy to construct these compounds? The challenge in some cases, it could take 7 to 8, 10 steps for a more complex compound just to make one single functional group change. I think, as there's chemists all over the globe who are really focusing on understanding what those needs are in the medicinal chemistry space and finding more efficient ways to do what we call late stage functionalization. So I think these are the two real key frontiers still: synthetic development for medicinally relevant compounds, and then thinking about strategies to take these larger, like bivalent compounds or PROTACs, and tackle some of these difficult diseases, including diseases in the CNS, for example. Yeah.
So that would, from your experience, if I want to build a great, full, complete group of drug discovery, which area they should collaborate together? Not only on science.
Yeah. You mean like within the disciplines
all the other way. Yeah. Science, investors.
Oh, absolutely. I think it's really important that you start from the science and what the formula that it takes, and I think having these critical disciplines, and then being able to bridge the gap. One of the things that we look at is the commercial and obviously the patients, right? We start there. If there's really an unmet need, so if you can connect investors with the clinical need, and then of course with the scientific model or the vision, and bring those three together, I think if you can make a compelling case for why it's so important that we not take, we have to think long term and be real and realize that the opportunity is there, right? The discoveries are happening. You don't want those discoveries to just die at the bench. You really need to have this vision for the unmet need in your communities. Where are people unable to get the medicines and the therapies they need for certain diseases, right, in your communities? And then couple that with investment, with the idea that it is going to be a long road, but hopefully with these new technologies that we're talking about, we'll be able to accelerate that. But you do need to have the commitment for the long haul and the people to get behind it. So
definitely.
Yeah.
Before I wrap up everything, I would like to ask you your advice for the younger scientists, for the younger student that you have met in our institution? What's your advice to them?
Yeah, I think I've hit it a couple of times, but I think two things. I think the number one, as I said, the process is long, but don't ever back away. I think you be fearless, go after the questions that you think are compelling for human health. Don't shy away from the challenging questions. And the other thing, like I said before, is I see it all the time, and that is be prepared for the unexpected. And don't ignore that data, right? We say the data does the talking for you, but sometimes we want to hear a certain outcome, right? That's the nature or human nature, right? With science, even though we're trying to be objective. So you want to take advantage of those opportunities. And I've seen it more often than not that those are actually what, in fact, allow the program to make that new leap. So I think perseverance and being prepared for the unexpected are the most important things you cannot underestimate.
I love this phrase, be prepared for the unexpected.
Yeah.
Thank you, Dr. Shaun, for the great chat.
Appreciate it. Thanks for this opportunity.
Thank you for the listener of KSAU Master Talk podcast, and we'll see you next time with a new distinguished speaker.